We'd love to get an introduction for our audience, people that don't know you.
So my name is Lara Wentworth. I'm a former lawyer. I was a lawyer for, I don't know, close to 20 years or so, doing mostly family law, personal injury law. I enjoyed being a lawyer, and then I got to 40, I know, and then thought, gosh, I wonder what else I could do with what I've learned over the last 20 years and who else I can help. And then I started to sort of get itchy feet. I was always interested and curious about people. I always coached my clients, probably more so than I lawyered them. And I loved sort of getting into a topic or something, a challenge with somebody, and really helping them unpack. It can be a little bit abstract like that sometimes. Anyway, so retrained as a coach, and then we formed Coaching Advocates in 2020. And we've been basically in business since then. So we're essentially a leadership development training and coaching company for professional services, but especially for lawyers. And it's really all about enhancing the leadership capacity of lawyers and professionals so that they can have sustainability in their careers.
How does a situation arise whereby like a law firm contacts you about the sort of service you can provide?
So depending on the size of the firm and what they might already have as an in-house offering or an in-house service for their people. But generally speaking, we get contacted when there is something that needs, something is a bit of a generic term, I suppose, a skill or a change or a shift that needs to happen with people that is not technically based. So it's not about increasing their skill in drafting or in advocacy or any of the lawyer stuff or the professional type stuff. It's more about, we want to enhance their leadership capacity in some way, whether it's communication, feedback, time management, client relationship, the list goes on. So we work with people on people stuff rather than technical stuff. So law firms or organizations in general will reach out to us when there is a need to enhance leadership capacity in somehow. Some firms or corporates will need us to come and help a cohort in their organization move up to the next level of promotion. So in law firms, the promotion pipeline programs that will come in and assist with that. And again, depending on the law firm or the organization, if they've already got stuff in-house, we come and support. If not, then we basically do it all for them.
Like is succession one of those areas that's kind of driving a lot of people like seeking that sort of service to actually like bring people through the ranks and actually train them up and have them have the leadership skills?
Yeah, you know what? It's a really big question because there's a lot of stuff is changing, as we all know. Careers aren't what they used to be. And we're seeing more and more firms and organizations reaching out for things like leadership development programs, because I think the way that people think about their careers has changed. So back in the day, it was a linear path and it was a short path. As a lawyer, for example, if I was going through, a law firm back in the 70s or the 80s or even the 90s, I could probably get to partnership within 8 years of being admitted, and it's pretty sort of linear.
Yeah.
Whereas now the path is getting longer, it's getting a little bit more obscure, and people aren't generally striving for that path. There's so many other adjacent things that people are thinking about. And again, depending on the size of the firm, I don't think big law, for example, is seeing a big shift like the mid-tier firms might be. So I think the pathway to partnership, if you like, in the big law firms, that's still there. And people who join big law generally want that kind of trajectory. But what we're seeing with the smaller firms and even the mid-sized firms, that people are more curious about what else can they do with their law degrees? How else can they practice? What sort of lawyer can they be? What else is out there? So yeah, there is a little bit of a succession issue with those firm sizes because people aren't sticking around for as long as they used to. Back in my day, we stuck around for 15, 16 years, if not longer. But yeah, it's not happening as much anymore.
So, I mean, you mentioned alternative pathways and alternative things that I guess people could do. What sort of things are you seeing that people or areas are moving into?
If you just, when you go to conferences and you hear people speak, you hear so many people say they've moved. They used to be a lawyer, now they're in legal tech, or they used to be in law, now they're in legal finance. They used to be in law, now they're in coaching and training. Yeah. They're being influencers on social media. There's so many sort of adjacent careers now to law where, it used to be that you have a law degree and you became a lawyer or a derivative of that, whereas now it's I could do so many other things with my legal experience, and there's space for that. There's tolerance for that. People are are okay with that to happen. It's an interesting shift. It's an interesting shift that we're seeing.
It is. I mean, and it's interesting. I just clicked onto something you said earlier on, and about like the mid-sized firms and things like that. What are the challenges in a mid-sized firm as opposed to actually smaller firms where it's more sort of, I guess, it's a smaller environment?
It's definitely it's an interesting. It's an interesting dynamic. We recently did a survey around intergenerational dynamics in law and the impact of that on things like performance, reputation, revenue, retention of staff, etc. And so what we found was in the smaller firms, they actually do it a lot better than the mid-tier firms in terms of managing generational dynamics. Well, it's because it's a smaller outfit.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So, usually the owner or the firm leader, has their finger on the pulse because it's not a big operation. The bigger firms have the resources, so they can manage what's going on with the generations. This is just as an example. And so they might have courses, coaching programs, reverse mentoring, other things to kind of help the generation speak to each other. The mid-tier firms are sort of a little bit lost in the middle. And so what we found in the survey that a lot of people in mid-tier firms identified the leadership problems that they noticed was mostly from mid-tier firms. And so, the leaders in mid-tier firms are trying to do a lot. They're trying to be the lawyer, the manager, the leader, and they don't necessarily have the skills to do that. And the firm may not necessarily have the resources to be able to invest to help upskill leaders in that space. So we're seeing that kind of, I suppose, gap in that space, which is interesting.
It'd be interesting, like, what are the business problems that you're actually, like, when you go in there, what are the results of the things you're seeing after you do the work you guys do?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the business problems we're seeing, ultimately, it trickles down to the bottom line. Whenever there are people issues, lack of leadership, any of those, any conflict, any of that sort of stuff, it will affect and impact how much time people are spending on their work and how much money they're ultimately making at the end of the day. So it's a direct correlation. Like, you can't sort of say it's okay if everybody's unhappy. It's okay if people aren't engaged or don't have leadership skills. It does matter. And so if we can keep somebody in their position for longer, they're going to be happier and they're going to be producing, and not just, keep them, but actually help them thrive in that position. They are going to be more, more effective, more efficient, more productive. Reputationally, that firm is protected from all sorts of different problems when people aren't happy and when they're not performing well. And just in general, the culture in the place changes. Lack of leadership is probably, I don't have research on this, but everybody probably agree that it's probably one of the biggest problems when it comes to law firms in particular. Culture is if it's not right, people just feel it. They breathe it. And that then feeds into so many different things. So we need to get the culture right. It's a fluffy word. What does it mean? It's the way we show up here. It's the way we do things around here. And that ultimately comes from leadership capacity. If the leaders aren't leading the culture well, that's going to trickle down, and ultimately it will affect the bottom line. And it may not affect it in an obvious sense, but it will impact growth, it will impact scale, it will impact other things indirectly, but it will still have an impact.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so there was one firm where they asked us to coach quite a few of their senior associates. This was particularly something that they wanted to do post-COVID, because if you remember back in during that time, there was the, what was it called? The Great Resignation.
Great, that's right, yeah.
Like quitting or whatever label. Right. So this firm wanted to be really proactive because they noticed that people were dropping off, and they gave their senior associates options, 3 types of perks. There was, you could have more holiday, so more leave, more money, or coaching. And about a third chose one of those. And so the third that chose coaching, we were then given the assignment of coaching their senior associates, and we worked with them for about 18 months to 2 years. What we found there was a lot of them moved into partnership, whereas a lot of them wanted to leave before then, and built practices that then started to generate more work for the firm. So we got feedback like, I have more confidence to do more business development. I can lead my team more effectively. People stayed on longer. So you could see the impact rather than sort of talk about it, with people getting the help and the opportunity to develop themselves.
One of your coaches, Andrea, has actually worked with me personally.
Oh, shit.
And the transformation in my business has been incredible. I mean, we've got a recruitment practice over here that we run, but there's some similarities to this sort of type business. But Andrea was just amazing, and I mean, if that's the testament to what you guys do, it's incredible. I've experienced it firsthand.
Yeah. Look, Andrea is amazing. There's just no two ways about that.
Yeah.
But just in general, coaching and enhancing leadership, I mean, it's all that invisible stuff.
It is.
We don't put our finger on, but makes all the difference and the impact.
What I found from the style of coaching that I received was it's more like you know the answers to things, but there's good questions that the coaches actually ask about what things, they make you work through your own process and talk things through and get the right kind of outcome. They're not sitting there sort of preaching to you, but it's more about working through things.
Exactly right. I mean, coaching is, the common way that we explain this is coaching is not advice giving. That's mentoring. And we do that as well because we've been in those positions before. But coaching in its purest sense is such a great intervention for people to really tap into their own resource center and their own skill sets and their own strengths, which is something that we can sometimes forget how to do. And we think, and we become we get this kind of learnt helplessness. But really coaching is about empowering you to step back into your own resource center and utilize the things that you already have. Because that's so much easier than trying to gain things that you don't know about or you don't have in yourself.
No, exactly.
Yeah. And so when you come up with your own answers, I mean, we used to say that when I was a lawyer, we used to say if a judge gave you an order for your family law case, it's less likely that they'll adhere to it. But if the parties came up with their own agreement, they are more likely to adhere to it because it's their own solution. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, there's a real genius in that. Because you actually you've talked it through and you actually own it and things, and you're gonna put it in place and you're accountable for it as well. I mean, the other aspect about for me receiving coaching was the accountability on things. Like if and you try and make sure things happen and make the improvements.
Yeah, because it matters to you. It's not what I think you should do. It's what you think you need to do or what you need to do.
And I said it.
And you said it, and so it matters to you. So it's personal.
What do you think the top sort of areas for improvement for law firms right now are? Like, where could they really improve?
I really want to get through one conversation without talking about AI, but it's not going to happen today. Gosh, I can't believe I'm going to talk about AI, but here we go. Only because it's a reality that we can't stick our heads in the sand and go, it doesn't exist. I'm not here. You can't see me. It's here and it's happening, and whether or not we like it. So I think the opportunity at the moment for law firms is to actually, other than invest in AI and do all the stuff that they need to do, is actually invest in their people. Yeah. And I think that is really where we need to be heading, because it's the people who need to use the AI, but it's also the people and their skills that are going to become currency. When you used to be able to say, I'm a great lawyer because I've got all these technical skills and I can do all these amazing legal things. When AI takes half of that away, then it's going to be down to, well, I'm a lawyer and I've got great empathy, or I can really connect with the client, or I can build trust, or I can build relationships, or I can do things that AI can't do. So it's really about now leading, leading with emotional intelligence, leading with our humanity, so that we can be good lawyers.
It's interesting because as a small business person and having used legal services, I never actually think about the law firm. I think about the person I dealt with.
Exactly.
You always think about the lawyer you actually dealt with, and you use their name. I've dealt with so-and-so over here, the firm's secretary.
Exactly. It's a human element. We can't get around that no matter how tech savvy we become.
Lara, thank you so much for your time today.
That's good stuff.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.